people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
supposed to ride, standing in the station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was waiting for you. Train rolls in the station, you cannot make a move. Something inside you gives you heat, and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. And moan, you can't reach your hand up and stop standing alone. Let them take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
the radio bullseye and the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Well, hey, how are you doing? It's like there's so much stuff going on. Sometimes, folks, when you're getting ready to do a radio show that's got so much prep because there's so many things, there's stories and articles and writers and things, and then last-minute concepts.
Then we'll just wing it after all.
Last-minute concepts of, hey, let's talk about this because some of it is so darn cool and some of it is so wowza. So, in the last couple of weeks, we have been talking about, flamethrowers and cannons. Remember us having the cool conversation about cannons?
I don't even know how this all gets started with the flamethrowers and cannons. That's just out there.
Well, no, it's not.
My mom used to go crazy when we would. As soon as we mounted the bayonet in the house, then she knew we were poking holes in the ceiling. And
don't do it. Don't do it. So Rob told me that for Christmas, he was going to give me just a cannon barrel, and I was then responsible for making my own cannon wheels and all of that kind of stuff. So I have taken possession of my cannon, but we've been talking about cannons. And then all of a sudden, the president, obviously, he listens to our show. That was the only...
I didn't think he listened to anything.
That's the only supposition I can draw from the fact that he now is talking about cannons, and because I now have a cannon, he believes...
He wants one, too.
No, he believes that they ought to be illegal. There ought to be a law against that. She should not have a cannon, is kind of where... Well, he actually did say there was a law against that, and he was wrong.
Right.
But he also doesn't
the
realize...
thing is, there's a lot of laws. I mean, if you want to take the time to read it, it could take you, 35 or 40 years to read it. So it's written in like about a 5-inch thick book on tissue paper in real small print. And if you have a gun that's over 50 caliber that's rifled and takes actual fixed ammunition, which is a standard bullet, that classifies as a destructive device.
But I don't. Mine doesn't have rifling. It is bigger than 50 caliber.
So they let people have a, period correct type stuff, muzzle loading things. So you could have muzzle loading cannons and muzzle loading like large board rifles, stuff like this, without any kind of issue. And then over the years now they've kind of muddied the water because you can go down to the local sporting goods store and buy a 12-gauge shotgun with a rifled barrel, which all of a sudden takes you into destructive device territory.
But they haven't said that.
But they don't classify it as that for some reason. And then they make this pistol brace that is fine as long as you don't take any pictures of you shooting it on your shoulder.
You do not shoulder it because then if you shoulder it, then it becomes a short-barreled rifle. So we are talking about rifling there, John Petrolino. We're talking about lack of rifling. I just want to say I have a cannon. Do you have a cannon, John Petrolino? So if not, we'll give you an invitation at some point. Once I get really cool wheels on my cannon, we'll give you the opportunity to come.
See, now you're going to have a set of mag wheels built like the ones on the Orange County choppers or something. So you.
I was actually thinking more. Of the not the laser, but the fleur-de-lis kind of pattern on, and then if I did hammered copper on the wheel itself, so it would be decidedly decorative.
Well, later on, they would turn like that green patina to it. It would look really cool.
It would look cool. See, I'm thinking.
And two is if you had somebody make like a little bronze sleeve to go over the barrel of your cannon so that it too would eventually, it didn't have to completely cover the barrel, just certain
stripes.
Spots, so it would look like
had a belt.
Kind of a little truss for it, but it would turn patina color also.
I think
then
I
you
can
could
do
mount
that.
your sights on that or something.
So the question is, do I rivet it on the underbelly? How do I?
So
I think you got to silver solder it, right?
It's going to need like 9 different little mounts, so you got room for your red dot sight and your GoPro camera and
Yeah, I don't know about that. That stuff all has to come as an add-on to the top. I want to stick with way pirate cool, not tech cool, you know. So, okay. So the video producer is now going to search for Krager rims for Amanda's Canon. Because, you know, when you have a Canon, you have to take care of that Canon. So I just thought it was pretty
Those little
cool.
Skinny American racing wheels like they put on a dragster, they might work good.
I was thinking, well, the horse, those horse sulky wheels,
the sulky
too?
wheels.
Because they don't weigh anything. So that could be...
You just buy a used sulky and mount your Canon to it, and it would just look...
And then I need a pony.
It look like a rickshaw.
So we're getting instant feedback that John's in New Jersey. He can't even have bullets, let alone a cannon. So thanks, Patrick Collins. You are so right. So we live in free America where we can have a cannon. So our next list of items that we're going to be talking about is, you know, flamethrowers, and then we're going to go from there right to warships, because you could have, if you could buy it and you could figure out where you keep it.
If you read the Federalist Papers, it tells you in there that you can have a warship, but nothing says that the government's going to rent it from you.
You can't think that you're going to use it as a profit center and that you're going to use Section 8 government subsidizing.
They may be interested, but they're not guaranteeing that they're going to be
just because you have one. I love that.
I like that. Got a Section 8 housing on my warship.
Well, there you go. You know, you just got to go through that inspection, and we'll see how many bedrooms.
Best part is like a man of war has like 72 rooms or something. So
that would move way up there now, wouldn't it? So I just think it's funny and it's interesting right now listening to where the president is based on what we have been talking about.
You know, the problem that he has is he got in there, he shot his mouth off in the beginning, pun intended, and said he was going to do something about the guns. And that got the Shannon Wattses and all those that are...
all those say, I love you, Mr.
Right.
President.
And then now nothing is happening.
He's realized that he can't really do anything.
Right. Nothing is happening, and he doesn't have enough control of Congress or the Senate to do anything. Every day he's losing a little more power due to the fact that he's got a 21% approval rating or
so
something.
He's not gaining any ground anywhere.
Right, and so and then as the crime rates keep getting higher, and then people are seeing that on the news, they're always talking about defunding the police and this and that. There's less and less backing for some of his programs, so he's kind of in a bad way. He has to come out and say something, but he really not going to really plan on doing anything.
Right now, we're just going to stir y'all up and then stand back because
he promised them that he was going to put a Supreme Court justice in, and then so when the one says that possibly they're going to retire, he says he's going to name a black woman in that spot. Whether he gets an opportunity to actually name one or not, it doesn't matter. He's already made his declaration. He's tried to do what he can for them. And so
you're saying that counts as
that
whether
kind
he
of
did it or not.
satisfied his spot in that he at least tried, and everybody else held him up. And so there's a certain amount of this. It's basically they're just I don't know.
Saber rattling. Is that it?
Wonder Woman's wrist bracelets just blocking things left and right as they're going through, and they're trying to do damage control so that they don't look quite so bad when the midterms come along. But some of this last stuff that he said, you can see that he had not ever read anything in the way of
and then his
Second Amendment law.
So his speechwriters either didn't do their homework, and we've seen that's happening kind of all over the place, or he went so far off script that the speechwriters just curled up into a little fetal position.
I think a lot of it is that they're so used to the fact that average person only hears that little blurb of the headline in the
soundbite news.
There's no real news with substance. I mean, you can watch the news all night, and the part they told you to stand by for never came. So,
I figure either that or I fell asleep while I was waiting for it.
But that's the thing is the soundbite stuff has got everybody to where they don't really worry about the crux of the conversation.
So facts don't matter. It's just sound bites.
Right. You'll feel better when I tell you this, and then you'll go on about your business. And since we all have ADD or something, and we're 24 minutes later, we've forgotten all about that. We're thinking about something, either macaroni and cheese or upcoming trip to Cancun. We don't know what's
We don't know. We're talking with something. Squirrel. Some direction. You're really not wrong, because it's like, wait, he said something, so I felt good about him saying something. I don't remember exactly what he said, but
told
it felt.
Us he was going to cure cancer when he was on the stage against Donald Trump. Now he's almost 2 years into it.
Well, yeah, it's not right. It was January when he went in. It feels like 2 years, but it wasn't.
Okay, well,
so it's just
a year and a little bit, but it's he is just now getting around to talking about the cancer cure.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we are back. And this week we're going to talk a little bit about knowing what you've got.
Well, I have people call me all the time, and they inherited guns or something. And it's funny because my son just called me a little bit ago, and he says one of his friends had inherited a collection. Most of the people in the family are felons, so they can't have a gun. So he went and got them.
Okay.
Well, it's 2 station wagons clear full of guns.
Wow.
He has no idea what any of it even is, and a 1-ton truck full of ammo.
Okay. So everybody else is like, wow, how come my family doesn't have?
He's like, I don't know what he was planning for, but he says apparently
it's a little more than he was planning for. But
he's like, since he doesn't really do any of it, he doesn't know what to do with the stuff and that. And it's one of those things where you show it to your friends, and all of a sudden they start throwing money numbers at you, and pretty soon you're selling stuff for almost giveaway prices.
For 10% of the value, because, well, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, we did these appraisal fairs around because of that specific fact, where somebody would have a collection, or somebody would have a group of guns, and then they would pass away, and their widow is sitting there going, what do I do with these? And then
sometimes
the neighbors,
it's still in the box where they bought it at Kmart for $80 or something like this.
And somebody's like, I'll give you $80.
Right, and the reality of it is that $80 in 1968 money turns into be $500.
Yeah, $500, $800.
And so there's a lot to this, and then too, it's not just the guns and the bullets that you see, but how many other things, holsters, scopes, sights, different things like this. All that adds up in the money. When we had a gun shop, we made more money off of buying that box of junk at the auction than we ever did off of buying the guns from the auction. So when you got that stuff, don't think of it as trash, and don't just shovel it out or leave it there. Take it with you, because think of it as $20, $20.
And you can figure it out. So, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with it, but the best one is to get a book and start looking things up.
And there's some things you're going to look in there, and there's a lot of different variations, so you don't know what it is. That maybe those are the ones you need to go get some help with. But other ones, right away, you'll see exactly. It'll tell you what it is, serial number, range, all this stuff. You can narrow it down yourself. But it's once you get to where you say these are normal, and I know what's going on. These are not normal, and I need to look at these. Now you can take them somewhere, or you can call somebody and have them come and kind of give you an appraisal on this stuff.
Right. So because you can call a gun shop to ask them to come and do a consignment.
There's also some spots. I see a lot of things on Facebook lately where people I bought this, what is it? And they put 8 or 10 pictures on, and people will get on and tell them. The funny part is you get so many people that'll tell you it's a P-38 space modulator, and you don't know the difference. So how do you know what the true story is and not?
Well, the other part is are they telling you some answer? This is what is extremely frustrating. Do they think they're being cute? And you're sitting there, I need an answer, and then I've got these dudes that live in their mom's basement that their humor is or, right? Stop it. It's not funny, right? Move on.
But I mean, that's the thing too. And some of them, they look at one piece. I mean, and I've seen it, like an Enfield or something, that say it's a early long Lee or something. And then they'll say, oh, well, I've seen one of these at the gun show the other day sell for $300 or something. No, you saw probably a Smelly or a number 4 or something like this, because long Lees don't sell for $300. And, so
you saw something that sort of looked like that.
Right, and so sort of and actually looks like that are two different things. Well, it's sort of like
the difference between, let's say, there's a garage and there is a, let's say that there's kind of like one of those Honda S2000s right next to a Ferrari. You know, and they're both red and they're both sporty.
Pointy in the front, flat in the back.
Right? They're both sporty and all that. And I saw that sporty red car go down the road, and it's worth about $30,000. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. So that's the thing, is that you need to know exactly what you're looking at before you make a decision. Sometimes, though, some people will come in and give you I'll just give you $10,000 for all of it. And if you look at it and say, well, I don't really know anything, I don't want to know anything, $10,000 keeps me from learning anything.
It may not be a bad deal.
It's just I can just roll it over and then go on with my life $10,000 richer than I was before.
But if I want to squeeze every last dollar out of it...
Right, and sometimes it doesn't pay to squeeze every last dollar, because then you spend the next 10 years at gun shows or different things trying to do
learn stuff that wasn't your hobby in the first place.
Right. It's much easier to say, this is where I want to cut my losses, and I think that they're worth this kind of money, and if somebody makes me that offer, I'll...
Well, and the other thing that they can do is they really can just contact, like, one of the auction houses
right,
to see if they'll
take it. And the auction house will deal with it all and just write you a check at the end, and you'll get a much fairer deal than you will from your uncle's buddy
because the auction house, the market will drive what it is, and some things will go a little low and some things will go a little high, but the market will drive it, and you will get on average a pretty fair representation of what it is.
Sometimes, yeah, it's funny because it's like, well, they say, well, I'm going to get 30% for handling this, but when you think of all of the advertising and picture taking and all the stuff they have to do, really that's not a bad price. And then two, one thing will sell for so much more than you thought it was going to. That it pretty much their auction fees kind of go away in the middle of that. You don't even realize that it's missing. So think about how you're going to handle it, what are you going to do, and how much of an expert do you want to be.
So let's think about the guy who has the collection, gal, because let me tell you.
Right, so if you're on your last legs, you have a huge collection like this. By you sitting down and making a list of what it all is and an approximate value, that could save the next guy lots of time and money. Also, too, you know the people, so maybe you should handle the selling it as one clump to your buddies in the industry or at the gun shop or whatever, and that way then they just inherit a wad of cash instead of having to 2 truckloads of iron.
2 truckloads of iron and a 1-ton truck full of ammo. I'm thinking now.
That sounds like a Christmas carol, doesn't it?
The 1-ton truck full of ammo is got to be. I mean, talk about break the bank. That's the spot. And you're like, inquiring minds want to know what's in there. Is there bricks of ammo? What does it look like?
It's 8,000 boxes, and every one of them has one shot out of it, just like usual.
Okay. Well, at least it's better than the ones that are all masking taped up, and you don't know what.
Or they're in Crown Royal bags. They've taken them out of the box and put every one of them in Crown Royal bags.
Could be. We'll be back right after these.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
Hey, so we are back. And with us, we have, as we do with our the bottom of our first hour, is we have a guest. And so we have Corey Meyer from Steelhead Outdoors. And Corey and I, we have been trying to connect to do an interview, have conversations. And we missed each other at SHOT. They moved us around. There's a couple different things. So Corey, I am so glad that we finally got an opportunity to connect.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and sorry about all that mix-up at SHOT. Like you said, they moved you, and when I asked the workers where Radio Row was, they all sent me different places, so.
Right. It's that she went that away kind of thing, and everybody's pointing in a different direction. Yeah. There was a lot of that going on that week, but there you go. So Corey, Steelhead Outdoors is that you guys build custom safes so that we can get them. So tell folks a little bit about your business model, because I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, yep. So we make premium American-made modular gun safes, and what that means is that our safes ship to you in 5 boxes, and inside those 5 boxes are 6 panels. So each side of the safe is completely its own piece, and then it's assembled on site, on location, where you want it, and all the bolts are assembled from the inside only, so as they're not accessible from the outside.
Okay.
And the unique part about our business is
does your UPS man want to kill you?
Well, yeah, but we end up going through freight carriers.
Okay.
So it usually ships on a pallet, and then it comes curbside to your house.
Okay. So then I get this crate of stuff that they dump off in my yard, and then I just start moving it in and start building it from there. So how big are the biggest ones you build?
So right now our biggest one is we call it the Model 38 because it's 38 inches wide. It's 24 inches deep, and it's 60 inches tall. So we have interior options for that one to be a 10, a 20, or a 35 gun safe, and that's all long guns. We're not adding up handguns, and they're reasonable, spacing on the gun. So some companies would call that up to a 50 or even an 80 gun safe, which is kind of ridiculous for that size. But we go with 35.
Because when you put them in and your guns all clunked together, you're like, yeah, this isn't working.
Yeah, correct. But
So,
the
yeah.
part is,
Go ahead.
if you do want to go bigger than that, we have vault doors now, which is a new thing for us in the last year. So when you start going much bigger than that size safe, if you can do it, it makes a ton of sense to just go with a gun room.
Okay. And that's really, that right there is the reason that I wanted you on the show. So we can talk about the stuff where somebody can buy one and build
you have
it.
a vault door, but what do you do about reinforcing the ceiling, the floor, the walls, so that somebody can't just walk through the?
Yeah, what recommendations do you have? Walk us through what thought process. What do we have to have as we're building or rebuilding a house to be able to get the perfect setup?
Yep. So the best situation is at new construction, obviously. Because the incremental cost is not a lot when the concrete guys are already there. If you are doing this as a rebuild out, it does get a little bit more expensive on you, but concrete is your best bang for your buck as far as that's concerned. You can reinforce all the pockets of the blocks with rebar, or you can pour the wall and the ceiling and have the rebar cast in with it.
Okay. And so you just have a poured concrete floor, a poured concrete ceiling, block walls or poured walls, and you build this from there. So now you build this, and then how does the door fit in? What's the frame look like? How does it affix? How do you keep them from being able to pry the door off?
So far, all the vault doors we built, our first series, have all been in-swing, so the hinges bolt down from the inside, and the frame is to be able to be fit first, which makes it much easier. So it's a full clamshell design, so the frame slides in from the outside in, and then there's like a clamp plate that goes on the back, and you tighten that up, and the whole vault frame is fully clamped to the concrete wall, but there's also 8 anchors that go in both sides from the opening of the door outward, and that makes sure the door stays square and level, and that the door is swinging nice for its, the rest of its life.
Okay, so it swings inside, and
does it come with a 24-point book on how to talk to your wife that you need a concrete room with a reinforced metal door?
You mean marital advice? You need some marital advice as part of this as pointers. There's a marketing direction for you.
Talking points. If you got 24 bullet points and rebuttals, possibly for that.
And rebuttals. If she says this, go this direction. There's a whole decision tree headed out there of the thing where, and periodically it just says, buddy, you're screwed. Right? I mean, and then over here it says, Eureka, you got it, right? So you got to work your way down the decision tree headed for Eureka. So that's pretty cool. So now we've got this gun vault, and we've got the door, we've got all of this. So how do you, we've all seen those movies where somebody gets locked inside something, and the next time somebody finds them, they're a skeleton. So if Rob doesn't have Twinkies on an every 3 hours kind of basis, he'll waste away to nothing. How do they make sure that you don't get locked inside?
Yep, that's a great question. So 2 things. So first off, the in-swing design is safer for a room that you intend to walk into, because some people utilize these spaces as storm shelters or panic rooms, and that way if something were to fall in front of the door on the outswing, you could become trapped inside. The other thing is that we have a safety release right on the inside, and it's accessible without pulling any trap doors or access panels. It's a big pin on the back side of the door, and you lift and you pull it a quarter turn, and it completely unlocks the whole locking mechanism from the outside handle.
Okay, and then you can get out no matter what.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
And then there's also a panic room lock function separate, so those 2 together allow you to shut the or lock it, and then make it stay locked no matter what someone on the outside does.
Oh, so if they have the combination because you wrote it on the wall over on the other wall because you forgot it all the time, they still can't get in.
Correct.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Rob, in your decision tree to your wife, panic room is one of the paths that you can go to motivate her to.
Yep, might work out good. So,
so there is that. So how long has Steelhead Outdoors been in business? What caused them to put together this business model? I mean, I think it's really pretty interesting. Rob and I had an experience one time where we helped our mother move her safe, and she had I would say it's probably 36 or 38 inches wide, 5 foot tall, and it's probably as big as your Model 38. And we had to move it around a swimming pool and up into a moving van. And the whole time we just kept doing the little mantra of don't fall in the pool, don't fall in the pool, don't fall in the pool, don't squash me, don't fall in the pool. Right? So this business model of coming together in pieces and you build it where you want it makes so much sense.
well, and does he have pictures on the internet so people could go and see kind of what we're talking about? Is it if they go to the website?
Yeah, so roll out your website there, Corey.
Yep, so if you go to thesteelheadoutdoors.com, all one word, there's pictures there, and honestly the best way to get a good feel for what's involved is if you go to the About Us section on the top, there's this one called Videos, and there's 2 videos there, and one of them is like 11-minute long assembly video. And it's a little dry, a little informative, but it really does give you a great idea of what's involved. So many people ask, like, well, how do the bolts go in? How secure are they? It gives you a really good idea of the quality and the way that it all goes together.
And how you build each of the pieces and what you do. Okay, so that you can plan that ahead.
Like a Lego gun safe. Huh?
Right, and back to your other question about why we got started and when. So my business partner and I, we're both been in metal fabrication industry for a long time, the bulk of our careers, and we both come from product development and kind of a manufacturing engineering background. And we were both kind of looking for gun safes at the same time. And I had a unique house at the time. I had one of those stairways that turned partway up.
Okay.
And I knew the only space I had was to put it upstairs. So I started doing research, and there was a couple other people making these bolt-together safes. And there just wasn't like one that had a really high-end feature set, a ton of options and customizability.
Mm-hmm.
And the key word, some of the ones out there are not made in America, and that was really important to us.
Okay.
So that's what we thought, we can make a better mousetrap here.
Well, it makes so much sense. And made in America matters to so many people. I mean, I really believe that America is waking up. So their website starts with Steelhead Modular Safes. So our video producer has just pulled up your website.
Safe you can move yourself.
There you go. In pieces. I love the whole concept. And just the thought process of you being able to have a safe that you can build, have a safe that,
if it's in pieces like this, is it any kind of a fire rating or?
Good question.
Yep. So fire rating is.
You're not going to have time to answer that question before we go to a commercial break.
Okay.
Because Rob just dumped you right up to the edge. So when we come back, you're going to talk a little bit about fire rating. We're going to send our folks to the website Steelhead Outdoors. And it's outdoors plural. .com. So check that out, and we're going to have a commercial break. We will be right back after this message. Corey Meyer, Steelhead Outdoors.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seffacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, folks, we are back, and we're talking safes. So, one, if you've got a collection of guns, you should have them in a safe. You should be able to...
You know, a lot of people say, oh, well, a safe costs so much, but you think about it, it takes somebody 10 minutes to go in and clean out way more cost than the cost of a safe in your collection.
Well,
and then also, too,
the security, if you've got kids around, you've got any of that kind of stuff, you are responsible for what they do. And so you want a good quality safe so that they stay put.
They get into your stuff and then use your gun to kill you, how much was your safe worth at that point?
You saved $1. There you go. So let's go back to Corey. So, Corey, tell us about the fire rating of the safes.
Yep. So fire ratings are a unique thing in the safe industry. There's only one fire rating agency, UL, and they make a very stringent test that none of the gun safes can actually pass. It's called UL 72. So because of that, the manufacturers all test their own safes. So it's a little bit, some of the manufacturers are super, super honest and straightforward and give you all the information. And some of them kind of go, well, it's rated for 45 minutes, but that's all we'll tell you. So
right.
It's a little bit tricky, but we decided to choose the path of like almost 100% transparency on everything. On our website, there's a frequently asked questions section.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an article called "What's the Fire Rating of Your Safe?" And it's pretty long. It talks about everything to do with why we did what we did when we designed our safes.
Mm-hmm.
So the number one drawback to what I'll call as a traditional gun safe is that they're lined with fireboard or gypsum board or drywall, sheetrock.
Mm-hmm.
So it does a really good job in the fire testing. It actually performs really well. It keeps the inside of the safe cool, but it has moisture issues.
Okay, so it holds moisture to the death of firearms before the fire.
Correct. Yep. So that's why dehumidifiers are so popular inside gun safes, because they have this natural, like, humidifying element inside of them. And it does a really good job at fire protection, but it causes just other issues day to day, every day, that you have to deal with.
I don't know that I knew that. Did you know that?
Nope.
No. So that there we go.
Knew we needed a dryer or a drying rod or something.
Well, I have the drying rod. I just didn't know why I needed it, but I have it because that's just what you do. So great. I appreciate you.
So there's a couple of safes on the market, including ours. Not a lot, but there's a couple where they use an actual insulator instead of fireboard. So we use ceramic blanket material, and it's a little lighter, which helps us since you're carrying the panels. It's more expensive than drywall, but it's a true insulator, and it's like really robust in that after we performed our fire testing, the insulation looked brand new. We could use it again because it's rated at 2,300 degrees. And the fire tests happen at 12 to 1,500 degrees. So afterwards, that stuff's in perfect shape, and it does not trap moisture. It does not have moisture from manufacturing. So it gets rid of that drawback.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense.
But it does do like slightly worse in the testing than drywall. So we tested our safes in an independent lab, and with the oven at 1,200 degrees, a little over 30 minutes, and the thermocouples inside were at 350 degrees. So if you had to force us to put a sticker on the side of our safe, it'd probably say 30 minutes at 1,200. But there'd be a lot of aspects with that of extra benefits to our system.
Well, and you know, the thing is that everybody asks the question about the fire rating. I don't know that I have ever seen the inside contents of a safe after a fire.
I know some of them the safe is pretty much destroyed, and there's some companies that you send their safe back, they'll open it, get your stuff out, and they'll actually load it in a new safe and give you your safe back. But as to how every company does it, I don't know. But I do know that they're tricky to get back open again once they've been incinerated.
Yeah, Rob and I are dealing with a house that, not our house, but a house that burnt. And I have never been inside a house that had a fire before. And man, oh man, it is
eye-opening.
It is eye-opening. Where the fire was one thing, and then where all the rest of it is.
The fire in this house was in the kitchen area, and way at the other end of the house, in the bathroom, the shower curtain had fell off the bathtub ring because the rings that hold the shower curtain up had melted from the heat in the house.
Melted and ran down the pole. So
it's way far away from the actual fire source or the heat or anything like this, but yet it melted inside in the bathroom and dripped off of the pole.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. So
you bring up a good point.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I say Rob brings up a great point about the location fires are likely to start. So a lot of times people get a big old safe, they can't fit it where they want to fit it, so it goes in their garage or their living room, and that's probably the worst place as possible. That would be the hottest in the fire. You want to be away from those potential ignition sources with your valuables, if at all possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing too they tell you is if you're there and capable to point out where your safe was at, so the fire department can kind of hose that area down to keep the temperature down more than if they just ignore it altogether.
Well, you're right about that, because here, since in the effort of full disclosure, one day I started my house on fire, and the firemen came in, and they came in with their chainsaws and their fire hoses and all of that stuff, and it was between the house and the garage, and they were like, "Man, oh man, we have to save this garage," and I wasn't thinking about the fact that they were looking at motorcycles, cars, motorcycles, and right there a gun safe, right? But they were very careful about what they were doing to try to keep it partitioned and separate. But you can see why, and it's something. Sorry, we're squirreling off from your topic, but it's really interesting to mentally go down this path and think about your valuables, what you would do, where would you do it. So Diane wants to know: is it rated for water, such as for a flood? So that if water came up, what would you do? Or do you recommend they mount it a little higher or set it up on something?
Or because it's got a seam, the water that can leak in can leak back out instead of it laying there soaking where it's 5 inches deep in a little pot.
Yeah, a little of both. So that's one of the reasons the bottom panel is about 3.5 inches tall. That gives you a little bit of rise. So the bottom panel is completely welded. So the water would have to rise up to about the 4-inch mark, at least, before any water could come in from the bottom. Well, yeah, at the end of the day, most of the gun safes are not waterproof. Some of them are, but when they are, that kind of makes that humidity issue worse. We talked about before.
Exactly.
Because that steam that's all trapped inside the sheetrock gets boiled off in a fire, and if your safe's actually waterproof, it's all going to be trapped in there also.
Wow.
So with this modular design, say I buy one safe and then later on I want to add to it, can I buy an additional kit that just gives me a couple of extra walls
so
to
you could just do an add-on condo? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Just put on an extra wing.
We've always talked about that, and it's certainly possible. But the solution we've done for a lot of guys is we may end up making them two safes with doors that go the opposite directions, and then they actually attach together. So that gives you a couple of benefits. One is like you can have two different combos. Say maybe you want your kids to have access to their hunting guns, but you don't want them to have access to your silver, gold, and your home defense rifle. You can kind of have tiered access like that. And it does make a little bit of redundancy if someone's trying to break in and get your stuff. They have to do it all twice.
They have to do it all twice. Okay, and that makes and look how impressive a whole row of safes would be. Just say it. Look how impressive that would be. So, folks, why don't you go to Steelhead Outdoors, check it out, watch his 11-minute video, see how he does this stuff, and then start planning your dream house, your dream safe, your panic room, and your giant door, so that the sky's the limit when it comes to what you're going to build.
And the 24 questions that you're going to explain to the wife why you need one.
Panic room. You're running down the whole panic room story. That's where it is. Thanks, Corey Meyer.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
stand by.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, folks, I am going to send you to Bearing Arms so that you can read this article, because there is so much in this article that I cannot say on the radio.
You mean an article that actually has content instead of just a headline that doesn't?
Oh, no, it has content, but it also has all the words that you're not allowed to
Have
use.
you noticed lately that they keep saying as the left gets more and more closer to collapse, they're more desperate than ever, and so they say stupid things like that the people who support the Second Amendment are against women, or that some of the if you support the Second Amendment, it just gives you the right to shoot black people. Or,
let's run down this. I
want
to give you this story because I think you're right.
It's part of that soundbite mentality that they only want you to remember that you're allowed to shoot black people, or that you
that
hate
is
women.
So far from the truth, and it comes from anti-gun people who roll it out, and then they make these statements, and they make these big sweeping statements. So I want you to hear this guy. I want you to go to the Bearing Arms and read an article that came out February 6th, today, at 12:30, by Cam Edwards. And the headline says, suspended college professor claims that the Second Amendment gives white men the right to, quote, shoot black people, unquote. Okay? So that's the college suspended this dude. That's the first part.
I believe that was just on trial a couple weeks ago, where the three white men were on trial for shooting a black man that was jogging in their neighborhood or something, and all of them were.
So, and they're all in jail, and they're all serving sentences for murder. Long sentences.
Right.
Let's get this. Let me go. Stop pulling me away from this. This is solid gold information here that you keep squirrel, and then you're like, oh, rabbit.
But there's so much stuff that's in this. Okay, I'll let you go.
Make notes, and then you can interrupt me. Just here's a pencil. Just write it down, and we'll come right back to what you want to say.
All righty.
Because you'll be like, I forgot. So this guy, Barry Meyer, Mehler, he is the director. Catch the title of the college. The Institute for the Study of Academic Racism at Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan. Okay, so he's the director of an Institute for the Study of Academic Racism. So check out what this dude said, because he is so the first thing he says is that he started out and he is talking to his students. And there's so much, you're just going to get tired of the bleeps. I work in a paid bleep union job, and no limber bleep of an administrator is going to tell me how to teach my classes because I am a bleep tenured professor. That starts off. So if you want to go complain to your dean, bleep, go ahead. I'm retiring at the end of the year, and I couldn't give a flying bleep any longer. You people are just vectors of disease to me, and I don't want to be anywhere near you. So keep your bleep distance, right? This is.
I like the guy all in all. I mean,
there you go.
His message is a little polluted.
I've got tenure. There's nothing you can do about it.
And I just see you guys as a petri dish full of
disease, right? So he's got this huge series of opinions. And so the college had some heartburn about the fact that he's like, I'm tenured, I can do what I want, you can't.
Well, he's quitting at the end of the year, so there really isn't nothing
so they suspended him, right? And then he doubled down and he started to make videos, right? And so now he's making videos, and then he jumps on So he's already upset about the First Amendment. Then he jumps on the Second Amendment, and he starts down this whole path, and it is so profanity filled.
So, but is it? I wonder if he's actually trying to teach someone something, or if he's working on his 5 minutes of Comedy Central routine for after retirement, so that when he gets up on stage,
so he thinks that he's George Carlin.
Right, he could be up
right?
on stage with 100 bleeps, who's bound to get you a laugh, and then having a polluted sense of well-being. That also will make people laugh because you're completely 180 degrees off of the mainstream
of reality. We'll just say, he's so fit. My dad used to call it half a bubble off plumb. So that was a level kind of thing. But
he's just swimming upstream from reality. That's all.
Oh, no. He flushed reality, and he's swirling. So it's just amazing. But so here's a guy, and the point I wanted to make was the fact that this director at an education institute is responsible for the little minds of your little Sally and Johnny and the stuff that they feed them. So he's so over the top that Sally and Johnny's mind locks down and goes, okay, no, Professor Nutso is Professor Nutso.
Here's the thing. In the old days, we would have allowed him his spot because anybody can write a book. Okay, so you read this book, it says one thing, you read another book, it says another thing. Now you use your life experience to pick pieces out of both those books as to what makes your life work. This guy is so off the beaten path, it makes you think about what you normally experience and how normal that is, or if it isn't normal.
Right, you're going to say your neighbor Mrs. Kravitz is fairly normal compared to Professor
if you block him completely, nobody gets to experience that end of it, and then all of a sudden, your reality is just what someone tells you, and you never question it.
Well,
when you get something that is so far off that you got to question it.
Could you sit through 15 weeks of Professor Bleep Diddy Bleep Diddy
I don't know,
Bleep?
because some of it would be so funny. I mean, I may have to have a tranquilizer so that I don't
giggle out loud.
But I mean,
I'm just like, well, one.
I myself would be sitting there asking him pointed questions to try to get more bleeps per hour. I don't know.
To see how many bleeps an hour we could get.
Kind of like a drinking game and see how revved up you can make him before something flies off the handle.
Boom. There you go. Right? That could be. Well, I find it truly amazing that he is a tenured professor. And traditionally, he's right. As a tenured professor, there is nothing that they can do. They get through. They try to be normal till they get through tenure.
He was normal.
And then,
he got to that spot, and he's like, I've had it. Right? Today we go off the rails.
Right, there you go. Yeah, I've had a stroke. My car is listing to the right, and we're only going in circles. Right? I don't know.
But if you watch all of television is the same way. All of the national news the same way. Everyone has fell asleep at the wheel and is drooling on one side of the steering wheel.
There you go.
We're just going around in circles.
So Professor Bleep Diddy Bleep just called their attention to it and woke up their college. Is that it? I was like, but you actually, if you really want.
The thing is, they say everything's on a pendulum. We go all the way this way, then we go all the way that way. There's a spot where we are at about the maximum velocity for this.
Maximum verbosity. There you go.
So we're going to stop and
start
moving
back the other way.
The other direction. And we may have already stopped, and this is the direction changes right now. I mean, you can see CNN is starting to lose people left and right. There's a lot of other things that people are starting to actually ask questions about. The Karens are no longer in charge of the school district. The people are coming in.
If you look at it, this tenured professor gets suspended. Whoopi Goldberg ends up with 2 weeks on paid hiatus.
The thing is everybody. I mean, she may get 2 weeks, but she's not going to get back to where she was. She may get back close to where she was, but they're definitely going to have a shorter leash on her and stuff. There's a lot of things. I mean, even like this, when the police go on their whatever it is, unpaid leave or something. It's just this is a spot where we get a chance to reevaluate what we're doing and decide whether you stay or go, or whether
refocus you, or say we're pulling the reins a little bit one way or the other to go.
So I think that we're at the end of this pendulum swing. We're starting back. I mean, it's taken us 40 years to get to this spot.
To this point.
How far back do we go before normalcy starts to coming back into play on that?
I don't know, because what did they say? That we are as far from 1970 as 1970 was from the 1920s, right? That kind of a thing. And so it was like so the flappers are amazing to people, and now we're back to amazing to people. So we'll be back right after this.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we are back. I let Rob read the article while during the commercial break, and I'm just going to say that man has a unique turn of phrase.
He was probably an English professor earlier.
Could be. So you may do want to go there. So my video producer is commenting on my Woodstock T-shirt. I have a T-shirt that I'm wearing that is from the line of the Pew Pew Jew. And so it says, it's got flowers and it's got a gun stock on the front of it and says Woodstock. And so, yes, you have to represent now and then. It's really funny because people who are not gun people are like, ooh, Woodstock. And then they're like, what is that? Oh, a Woodstock. Oh,
you see where more and more places are looking like we might get constitutional carry across the country?
Yeah, so we've got a couple.
I mean, the other day, John Petrolino said, and I quote, that he believes that the New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin is going to give us 50 state constitutional carry. Well, and I believe I said that to you a couple weeks ago, and you told me that I was out of my mind.
Poo. So maybe John Petrolino was quoting you, and you don't know.
He said the same as I did, that they didn't believe they went far enough with when
Scalia and Heller?
When Scalia was going. And so this time they are actually going to rectify that. And
it would be an amazing thing from John Petrolino's lips to God's ears.
It takes. If
we'll
they
know
can,
something by June.
If they can do something somewhat larger than they need to, that just moves it out 10 or 12 years before they have to hear another one, and so that it possibly keeps them from having to be on the.
As they're hearing this one, there is all these other cases lining up, and there are amicus briefs being written.
But a lot of these, if you look at it, a lot of it's set up so that if this one goes through, the other ones basically get reverted back to a lower court. The lower court then settles it out, and they don't come back to the Supreme Court. They just get kind of dished out in lower courts, and so they're just making work for the little guy, and the big guys are still up there.
Moving on to some new topic, right? There is that. And it's not going to change as they pick a new Supreme Court justice. It is not going to change the dynamic of the Supreme Court. Well, and that's one of the interesting things because he's extremely liberal. And
I was reading a thing the other day. They said he's a follower, for one thing, and he follows whatever Sotomayor and the other Keegan, I think it is, say. But they said that more than likely, whoever they pick cannot be as liberal as this guy is. So Trump's team is actually going to win no matter who it is because they just can't get a record breaker like the one they have now. So.
Well, there's going to be this unemployed professor that may definitely be in their camp.
Well, he's not a black woman. That was precludes him being picked for that position.
There you go. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Well, that's what I said too. Is if they're really all that upset about Trump running for president in 2024, they could just give him that Supreme Court pick, and he could be on the Supreme Court and he'd stay out of their hair then.
Yeah, that would. Wowza. That would roll out.
It'd be huge.
It would be huge. You would hear the sound of heads exploding across the country, kind of like you were stepping on bubble wrap. Right? Just pop, 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 pop. That's how that is. So Indiana, their constitutional carry is headed to the Senate committee. So it's moving. Alabama's Senate committee has approved it, and it's headed for Senate
But
vote.
I haven't heard anything about Ohio lately.
No, they had two versions, and so we're waiting for them to be rectified together.
But I mean, that's the thing. There's a lot of things happening. It all happened in slow motion, so you have to.
I know the theme song is "Hurts My Motor to Go So Slow." I swear.
But I mean, there's a lot of that. But some of it too is if to make a quick decision, a lot of times it isn't a good decision. So
let them take their time, do it well. So this is an interesting thing. So state preemption is under attack. This is a headline that came out of Ammo Land by Dave Workman. Dave Workman is a SAF, Second Amendment Foundation guy. But state preemption is under attack in Washington as a report shows gun law failures. And I know that Alan Gottlieb has been sending out press releases left, right, and center. Let's cover a couple topics here because I think
this one here is from Washington State.
Washington
Wasn't there
State.
just recently another state who gave away their preemption at
Yes, they did. I can't tell you. Tennessee? I don't remember.
I just know that they had it and then they voted it back out because
Virginia? I don't know. I remember it. So preemption. Let's define preemption for all y'all because you hear it, but do you really know what it is? So its legal definition is the idea that the higher authority of law will displace the law of the lower authority when the two come in conflict. So if you pass a law in your village and then they have preemption for the state's law trumps village law or township law or county law or city law.
It's kind of funny because we hear it in the gun industry a lot, but you would think it's not necessarily just a gun issue.
No, but it's a law issue.
It could be for any type of a law, and but it's definitely. I mean, I'm seeing here in Ohio, preemption was for the gun, but didn't cover any of the knife rulings or anything like this.
But they had written in that case preemption only into the concealed carry bill, and so that's where that was. So the interesting thing was I went and looked up where Washington State is ranked in Pro 2A states. And they're number 38, with Arizona being number 1 as the freest state in the United States, and New York being number 51 because Washington, D.C. is considered in there also. That's why there's 51 of them.
What about the other 55s?
In the 57?
Yeah.
So we're talking Arizona is the freest, New York is the most stringent, and Washington State is number 38. So they're talking about the laws that were created. There's all of these anti-gun laws, and Alan Gottlieb is talking about how they are not our friends. They're having disastrous results, absolutely disastrous results. And voters were told in 2014 that the Initiative 594 would reduce gun violence, and the data that's coming out is said that's wrong.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition and what do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Okay, so we are back, and we've got a second hour guest because it was career day at school, and so
you wouldn't think they would let gun people talk at career day at school.
Well, that's really kind of where the story is. So we have with us Beth Alcazar, and she is like an amazing trainer for Delta Defense, USCCA, and she's a mom. And so she juggles those two things together. And so she was trying to meld them, to blend them. And she's got a story. So, hey, Beth, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
Oh, hey, it's so good to be with you guys again.
So it is good to have you. So I loved it when I started to read your story about what was happening at Career Day. So why don't you fill our listeners in on the last attempt and then this one?
Yes, absolutely. You know, when my son first had a flyer come home for Career Day, like 5 years ago, I was super excited because, you know, us parents, we love to just jump in there and, you know, be with our kids, whether it's eating lunch with them or watching one of their little programs. But this was one of those special things, and they literally invited all the different careers to just come and tell the kids what they do and, you know, what their job is like, and just kind of, you know, answer any questions the kiddos might have. So Ian, my son, was super excited. And he's like, Mom, you got to come. You got to come speak to my class. You get to see my friends and my teacher, et cetera, et cetera. And, of course, I kind of thought for a minute, they're not going to really want a firearms writer and instructor coming to class. I bet something will stop them from having me there. But you know what? I went ahead and I filled out the paper and sent them a little email, kind of keeping my fingers and my eyes crossed. And lo and behold, guess what kind of response I got? They were basically a thanks, but no thanks.
We're all filled up.
Kind of, right? I mean,
yeah.
You would think no matter what the topic is, getting a writer to come in and talk to the kids about how that happens and what some of the process is. I think that's very interesting. I'm very interested in like people who write songs and poetry. So like, how do they come up with some of that stuff and keep it inside of the lines of whatever makes it that particular thing and stuff?
Yeah.
And so
even if they'd have put the reins on her just a little bit and said, right?
Well, and I have the privilege
talk about
of writing.
This, but talk about that.
Yeah, I get to write such a unique, variety of things too. I've been able to write for our magazine. I've been able to write a lot of different blog posts or scripts for videos. I've gotten to write a book, so our curriculum. So it's kind of like, look at all the cool examples I could bring for the kids and let them see and just talk about and say, who knows, one day you might
make their own
have a career
movie
like this. Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, one of the most, or one of the strongest points that hit me was that the school counselor and the teacher and probably the principal got together, and they were afraid I was going to, quote unquote, impose my beliefs on children. And so I was basically told I can't come. It was heartbreaking. Yeah, it was very sad for me and sad for my son. And, this year, my daughter's at the same school, my little one, our caboose. And they got the same career week here with the same flyer. So she was like, Mom, this is so cool. You can come to school. I was a little wary.
What changed? Did they get new principal, the new guidance counselor, any of that? Is all the same people?
You know what's funny? Maybe it's a little bit of like the COVID and not having enough people responding to come in. But or maybe it's the 5 million new gun owners every year or something that some of these have transitioned into that position now.
They're like, now it's my gun she's talking about.
I would hope that would be influential, right? But Rob and Amanda, I'm going to give you a secret. When I filled out the paper this time, I kept it very simple, and I didn't write any extra info. I just basically, filled out the blank, and that's it. I gave no extra info. I said,
I'm a writer,
an instructor for the firearms industry, and I left it at that. I didn't explain it. I didn't go into any detail, and I just held my breath.
But you still had the F word in there, firearm.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, so you didn't hide that. So, okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't that they didn't know it all.
They didn't know it all. If they didn't read that word, that's on them. But okay.
Right? Yes. It's not like I was hiding it. It was there clear as you could find it if you look for it, maybe.
Right. Maybe a slightly smaller font, but we were good.
Page 3.
But this time I got a positive response saying, we'd love to have you. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. So
when you showed
you
up, was the response still as positive at the end as it was at the beginning?
Right, that's a great question. I was a little wary. I get to teach and present all over the United States to practically anybody you could imagine. But going into my daughter's classroom with 8-year-olds, I was thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to pull this off? Because it wasn't like adults had signed off and said, yes, I want my child to take a firearms class. So I had to walk really cautiously. And I spent a lot of time, I told them about my job. I get to teach, I get to write, and I showed them some samples. But then I got them really involved with the topic of safety. And I was able to really focus on that. And then kind of slide in the F word and just, tease that information while the students were coming up with other things that they would need to be safe around. So I set them up for it. But then I was also walking very carefully because the teacher was looking at me and I'm thinking, let's not make anybody mad. Let's just keep the faith here. Let's just hopefully get some good stuff to stick in these brains.
And it makes sense because really that's safety and sidewalk safety and bicycle safety and skateboard safety and swimming safety and
fire safety
and don't stick a fork in the electric socket safety. All has the same outcome.
Yeah.
So you have to, it all should fit together. We shouldn't segregate this safety because it starts with the F word from that safety that's acceptable.
Absolutely. And I respect those who decide that they don't want firearms in their homes, but that's not going to keep other people from choosing to have those guns. So even if your children are in a home where there's no guns, how do you protect them when they go to someone else's? Or how do you protect them if they stumble across one if that's just in the wrong place? So anyway, you're right. It's one of those things that I talk to people about all the time when parents are skittish or upset or worried about firearms in the home. I always ask them that famous question, do you have an oven? And if they say yes, we have a starting point. We can talk.
Right. We could talk. I'm like, do you give the keys to the Ford Explorer to the 6-year-old?
Right.
And they're like, no. Okay. Now we have a starting point.
Exactly. And you know what? These little 8-year-olds were brilliant with their answers, and they were great when I talked to them about safety, no matter who you're with, no matter what location you're in, or no matter what tools or objects might be around you. And that's how I was able to sneak firearms into the conversation and even read them some fun little examples and let them come up with their own situations, and it was awesome. Hopefully, like I said, some of that information actually sticks with them, but it's applicable, like you said, in more than just a firearms world. It's applicable for anything that could pose a potential danger.
It really can.
Well,
so how much
gives
time...
you-
okay.
I was going to say, this gives her an opportunity to write another book about firearm safety for 8-year-olds that as we basically get into a more dangerous world due to the fact that the news media tells you when you're walking down the street that people just drive by and shoot at you and stuff. Maybe some technique for what you should do if you're being shot at or if you're in an area where people are shooting or something.
So is she going to write a kid's book that says the neighbor shooting at Johnny? Is that the title?
They give you one about fire safety and cooking safety at school. Why wouldn't you have a little coloring book or something that gives you some pointers on how to protect yourself or what might be bullet resistant or bulletproof in your everyday world or something?
Sometimes we have to keep him leashed, Beth. I'm just going to say.
Oh, yes, I know.
Rob looks at the world completely different. Well, he talks to kids like they're tiny little adults and expects them to expand their vocabulary to match his.
If the 6-year-old could handle it, I would give them the keys to the Explorer. But they have to prove that point at the beginning.
Well, got it.
Well, that's one thing that I always like to teach, that when it comes to kids, people love to ask the question, when should I teach them about guns? And that's such a hard question because it's really individualized. So I always ask, what are their ages and stages? It's not just how old they are, but what are they mature enough to handle mentally and physically? So, Rob, you're onto something there. You really are.
Think about it. How many times, people are like, well, they leave the oldest one in charge to be the babysitter for a couple minutes while they run down to the store or over to the neighbors or something. I mean, if the kid can handle that job, then great, and it expands his horizons a little bit. There's a spot where you don't want to overdo it, but you got to give them some responsibility.
Then the horizons are, I indeed am the boss of you, right? Is that where that is? So, hey, Beth, hang on, because when we come back from this commercial break, we're going to talk a little bit about, what you do, the training, when you talk to adults, kind of where you are, what you do. And how you do, because the adults want to know the cool stuff that you told the 8-year-olds or the adult version. So Beth Alcazar from Delta Defense, you know it as USCCA.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seffacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, so we are back with Beth Alcazar from Delta Defense, which is USCCA to most of you folks. And Beth, I want to tell you that Tony Simon gave you a shout out, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, and Rob and Amanda." But
gotta love Tony. He's such a great guy.
I'm just saying, Tony. I noticed. That's all I got to say about that. So tell folks about, I mean, the book you wrote is pretty amazing. The training that you do is pretty amazing. You're just overall a pretty, now he's going, so now Tony's calling out to Paul and Susan too. So the video producer. So he's got it all covered. So tell us about your book, tell us about your training, tell us about all of this cool stuff that you do that you went and told the 8-year-olds about.
Yes. Well, I have the privilege of working for USCCA as a writer, like we discussed, which is awesome. So I got to write the women's curriculum, which is the Women's Handgun and Self-Defense Fundamentals class that USCCA offers. I'm also hoping that very soon we'll start children's curriculum. I've worked really hard, actually, behind the scenes here the last several years on a kids and family curriculum that will highlight and focus on a lot of the things I've been talking about these last 8 years on my blog and, on podcasts and radio shows and in person, too, at like our expo. One of the fun things that we got to do with my daughter Noelle's class is we talked about some of the basic safety information you would need if you ever happened to come across a firearm. And so this is not the basic safety rules that we teach with the guns in their hands. These would be the things that we would want to teach kids across the board if they ever come across something they shouldn't. And it's very easy to remember. We had all the kids clap the rhythm, and they basically repeated, every gun is real, every gun is loaded, no, don't touch, tell an adult. Now, there's nothing brilliant and new about those kinds of phrases. A lot of different educational materials teach very similar things, but something I wanted to get across was the fact that today so many guns look fake that are actual real guns, and vice versa. So many, we've got people who are customizing their guns and making them super colorful, and that can kind of fool an adult or a child.
Well, there's some modern guns today that when I was a kid, they were futuristic. They looked like something from outer space guns, but in reality, that's a real gun today.
Exactly, and that's something we want all our kids to understand, that if they come across something, we're gonna treat it as real. We don't know, and we're not gonna mess with it. So every gun is real. And then, of course, every gun is loaded, as y'all know, and most instructors and safety teachers would know. We talk about treating firearms as if they're always loaded. So we're going to respect that gun. We don't care if it truly is or not loaded. We're not going to mess with it. And that's where those next two lines come in. Don't touch, and then tell an adult. And I make sure that I don't, use any wording or phrasing that would instill fear into these children. We don't want kids to be scared of guns. We want them to respect them, and there's a huge difference. I don't want them to see a gun and run like, oh, no, fear. God. I want them to say, oh, there's a firearm. It's not supposed to be there. I'm going to find some help.
Right.
And it was great to have these kids saying it.
And I'm going to be the guardian for all the other kids because I'm alert enough that I noticed. And so giving them that guardian responsibility.
So this one's babysitting the gun while he delegates some authority to the other one and go get some help.
Well, if somebody's hurt, you do that where you're doing this and you're like, you call 911. This is the same kind of a thing. Because if you tell everybody to do it, nobody does it. So you tell
one guy and say, go get your mom or whatever. And
exactly.
And wait for her to freak out.
Well, and that's fine. And wait for her to put a bucket over it, sit down, and wait for the police to come or whatever.
Exactly.
Yes. We ask our EMT friend one time, what does he do if he finds a gun at a scene where he's trying to treat somebody? He says, we put a bucket over it, I sit on it, and we take care of the guy. When it's all over, we'll move the bucket, the police can deal with whatever else there is. We've not impacted it, it's not impacted us, and we're all good.
I love it. And that provides a little bit of control and some safety over what otherwise could be, an issue for someone. If your eyes aren't on it constantly, you don't want it to walk away with somebody else. An unauthorized user comes across it or whatnot. And so many examples where, maybe a child does come across a firearm at a playground and then they run away. And then what happens was, and this is terrible, but another child comes across it and then gets injured or something horrible like that would happen. So we want kids to not be fearful, but be responsible. And like you said, Amanda, that could be, hey, delegating if they're old enough, if they understand. If not, at least they're making better decisions and they're having a good mindset, and we're instilling with them at early ages a really appropriate mindset for firearms use, for firearms safety, and hopefully for firearms ownership, right?
Right, because you don't want them, you're right, you don't want them to be fearful of it. These are going to be our little congressmen. They're going to be our little president. They're going to be, the school administrators when they grow up.
Sure.
And so if we tell them guns are bad, step away, don't touch it, and we want them not to touch it, but it's the same way we want them not to touch the chainsaw.
Yes.
Don't touch the knife in the drawer. They don't have an unnatural fear of the knives in the drawer as an adult. Because we don't
build... If you say something's hot, they respect that it's hot, but it isn't that they're afraid of hot things for the rest of their days.
Right, they only drink cold coffee. And so I think
we're getting to that point where everybody only drinks cold coffee.
No, but I think your point is very well made, is that we want them to be respectful, we want them to be the guardians, we want them, not to be hurt, and not to allow others to be hurt, but at the same time, we cannot teach them to be fearful of this or a lot of things,
That's right. And it's great to be able to have had that opportunity with even just a small group of kids right here in my local community, but to see their faces and to see them really understanding and realizing how that applies. I mean, it just proves over and over again that we need to start teaching children young, and we need to keep teaching them often.
Right. No, and you're so right. I mean, they are precious, and we need to protect them. But there's so many different ways to protect them, and taking guns away from everybody is not necessarily the way, right? And so that's where pro-gun people and anti-gun people all are like, we don't want murder, we don't want people hurt, we don't want, and it's like, that's exactly what everybody wants. We just go about it in a different manner.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I have a friend who does the hunter safety training, and now he's training the grandparents' kids that he's down 3 or 4 generations he's been teaching these. And so they keep coming back, but when he meets you at the grocery store, he remembers you and talks to you and everything. And it expands your, your friendship in the neighborhood too, because you know other people besides just relatives.
Right. Well, there is that's pretty cool. That is actually pretty cool. So what's on the horizon? What do you have to do to convince them to write this children's book? We've got 1 minute. You can use it.
The book is practically done. I'm waiting on the decision makers to push forward. We're hoping that our community asks for it and wants it and, is willing to step up and teach it. It is so important. We've got to make sure that the word is out and that we are supporting the future gun owners and that we are giving children an opportunity to be safe at all times. So if you're part of the USCCA, tell them that you want it, you can't wait to see it, and you can't wait to teach it to your own kids.
Okay, so contact USCCA, folks, and say that you heard a little bird say there's going to be a kids program, and you're very interested. So,
great.
Folks, Beth Alcazar from USCCA, look her up. You're really going to be impressed with all the stuff that she does. You're going to find her. She's pretty tall, and she's pretty famous. So, thanks, Beth.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. Realize FAC